Hey, what's going on everybody? It's Dom from Lensprotogo and Lens Rentals, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we are doing an 8K shootout between the EOS R5 and the Sony A1. Both of these cameras are capable of recording 8K video internally, so in this video, I thought it'd be a good idea to put them head to head in a couple of tests to see how that 8K video stacks up. But before we do that, I think it's important to talk about the 8K recording modes that each of these cameras uses. The EOS R5 gives you a few different options for 8K video recording. First, they're divided by aspect ratio. In 8KU, which is 7680 by 4320 pixels, this allows you to record in a few different compression modes. All-I, IPB for more compression, and IPB light for even more compression, but this mode is great on card space. Now, if you switch over to 8KD, the cinematic 8K ratio, which is 8192 by 4320, that's when you unlock raw 8K video, and there's even a raw light mode too, just like that IPB light. Also, 8KD unlocks this non-drop frame 24p too. Finally, as for the actual codecs and color sampling of the 8K video from the R5, the All-I mode uses an H.265 codec and is 10-bit 422, and the IPB mode uses an H.264 codec, but that's also 10-bit 422. But when you switch to IPB Lite, that drops it down to 8-bit 420. Also, that 8K RAW video is going to come as a .crm file, and I would certainly recommend a compatible computer for editing those files because they are pretty chunky. Okay, moving on to the Sony A1, which does have fewer options for shooting 8K than the R5 does. You can choose between 24 and 30p, and that's only in the UHD 8K aspect ratio of 7680 by 4320. Furthermore, for different levels of quality, you can choose between 400 and 200 megabytes per second bit rates. Also, here you'll notice that the color sampling in the A1's 8K video is only 10-bit 420, and it gets its own XAVC-HS codec, which is also in an H.265 container. Okay, so now that boring stuff is out of the way, now it's time to dive into some of these 8K tests. And the first test I did confronts a very well-known problem with the EOS R5. Overheating. So considering that, I didn't just test which camera is going to overheat first because I pretty much already knew it was going to be the R5. So what I did instead was see how much 8K video each of these cameras could record over 2 hours. Each camera had a full battery, a formatted card, all auto functions turned off, and IBIS turned off. So for this test, I set the R5 to its IPB 8K recording mode, and I did that with card space in mind, but this could have also kept the camera cooler too, I'm not really sure. So the R5 went for exactly 22 minutes before overheating. After 9 minutes of cool down, it let me record again for 6 minutes. 15 more minutes of cool down, that gave me 4.5 minutes. Then I actually gave the camera a real break and turned it off, opened the media in card gate and let it sort of just breathe for 10 minutes. This bought me another 11 minutes, then I waited another 15 minutes, which bought me 5 minutes. Another 16 minutes I waited, which got me 5.5 more minutes when it finally overheated directly at the 2-hour mark with seconds to spare. So if that was hard to follow, that totals up to 49 minutes of 8K recording over 2 hours, with no battery changes, no card formats, but it overheated 6 times. So moving on to the Sony A1, which was in its XAVC-HS 8K recording mode in 400 megabits per second. I hit record on the Sony and it recorded 52 straight minutes until the card ran out of space. I gave it a quick format and re-recorded in less than a minute. It went 30 more minutes before needing a new battery. Again, quick battery swap there and back to recording took less than a minute. Where it went 22 more minutes before needing a card format again, re-recorded, and then it basically wrote out the rest of the test with another 52-minute recording. Quick format there, and by the time I was able to record again, the 2 hours was basically up. So for the Sony, that totals up to 117 minutes of 8K recording over 2 hours. The only thing stopping the A1 in that time were battery swaps and card formats, no overheats. So in the overheating test, the A1 absolutely blew out the R5, but that's kind of what I was expecting already. What's interesting is while I was handling the bodies doing these tests, for example for those card formats or battery swaps, I noticed that the body of the A1 was getting pretty significantly hot, especially up here in the top left of the body, where the R5 was pretty much just lukewarm the whole time, maybe borderline hot. But it was the R5 that overheated 6 times. Alright, so moving on, I just shot our test board here in the studio to see if we can split hairs between the quality of the 8K video when we zoom in a bit. Okay, moving right along here, I did a quick rolling shutter test. Next, I did a quick test for skin tones, and for this, I basically just got both of these images as close to Rec. 709 in post as I could, and then went for an accurate skin tone grade. Next, here's the new official Lensprotogo autofocus test. And the 8K resolution shouldn't really affect autofocus in theory, but that's why we test these things. Finally, here are some low-light 8K clips. Okay, so after all that testing, here are my final thoughts. Each of these cameras definitely has its ups and downs when it comes to 8K video. But if you're taking 8K video with purely quality in mind and you want the most options for compression and bit rates, it's the R5. Most of its 8K formats are 10-bit 422, and you can even shoot 8K RAW for supreme flexibility in post. But obviously its major downside is you can't really trust it to shoot 8K video for more than like 20 minutes at a time. Which brings me to the major strength of the A1. It can record 8K video for hours on end without overheating. So if you needed to record 8K video uninterrupted for an even moderately long time, it's the A1. But the downside to the Sony is all of its 8K profiles are only 10-bit 420, which doesn't look bad by any means, but it will definitely be a lot less forgiving in post than 8K RAW, for example. With that being said though, it pretty much behaves like 4K Sony footage from previous Sony cameras. And if you're in S-Log anyways and you overexpose, I'm pretty confident that you'll get a pleasing image. Alright, so that's going to wrap it up for this 8K shootout between the EOS R5 and the Sony A1. So, if you have any questions or comments about the test I did in this video, drop a comment in the comment section below and we'll start a discussion about 8K video recording. Also, if you liked this video, hit that thumbs up button down below to let me know you liked it. And if you're not already, subscribe to the channel, and that way you'll be in the loop whenever we post new content, which is every week. So take care, and we'll see you in the next one.